In despite of having over 1.3 billion of population, India is not the best country for running a profitable airline industry.
Airlines are now set to lose $84 billion.
Has seen 7 incidents of technical malfunction in the last 30 days.
Acosta Airline, the country's latest entry.
Like if you look at the net loss is 1,259 crore.
Recently, you might have heard that the Indian aviation industry is in a big loss. That is even because of pandemic, but if we look at the statistics, then it shows that even before pandemic, almost 90% of the airlines were inside a very big loss. Well, the biggest reason behind it is the Indian customer. Yes, the Indian customer wants everything at a very cheap prices. And if any aviation airline which is operating in India, if they increase their prices above 6 to maximum 7,000, then any Indian guy is not gonna purchase a ticket from that airline. Well, this is the harsh truth that Indian customer do not want to pay more. That's why India is even one of the cheapest airline industry in the whole world. If you compare the average statistics, then yeah, it is. You'll be very surprised to know that only 10 to 15% of the population in India flies every year using flights. And even from that 10 to 15%, only 1% of the people are frequent flyers who take over 45 to 50% of flights every year in India. Now I think that you have a clear view about how an Indian customer thinks while it comes to an airline industry. Now moving on to the biggest players of Indian aviation industry, then we all know that Indigo is the biggest player in India, which is followed by SpiceJet and Air India. Well, Indigo is having over 57.7% of the total market share of aviation industry, which is really a humongous amount, and any kind of airline didn't have this much of market shares individually, creating a monopoly in the last few decades. Let's go back to my birth year, and yeah, Indigo is just 2 months older than me. Well, Indigo was established in August 2006. Now, at that particular time, the aviation market leader was Jet Airways and Indian Airlines. Jet Airways had a total market share of something around 30.4 to 30.7%, which is still a humongous amount. Well, for Indigo, starting a airline industry in 2006, just 2 years before the biggest financial depression in 2008, with having such competitions like Jet Airways and Indian Airlines was already a very big deal and a very tough challenge. Well, before digging into Indigo's strategy, let me explain you about aircraft carriers. Now, there are mainly two types of aircraft carrier. One is Boeing and another is Airbus. Well, at that particular time, Boeing was really hyped up. Boeing was used by almost every kind of airlines, the European airlines, the American airlines, everyone was using Boeing. But basically, Airbus was not in much kind of hype because they had some fatal accidents between 1990s to 2000s, which created a big loss for Airbus. Well, talking about the first steps of Indigo, then Indigo took over 100 A320 Airbus aircrafts, which was in, I guess, June 2005, just 1 year before their launch. Now, where everyone was choosing Boeing aircraft, Indigo chose up Airbus, placing a bulk order, which even helped them to get a good amount of discount. Now, after this particular order, Indigo was running out of cash. That's why Indigo used the master strategy in airline industry, which is known as sales and leaseback strategy. Well, to make you understand what exactly sales and leaseback technique is, think of an aircraft which is over $100 million, which Indigo took on $70 million because they had a bulk order and they got 30% of discount. Now, you know that the actual value of that particular aircraft is 100 million in the market. But what Indigo did is that they sold that particular aircraft again to an XYZ company which takes up asset and gives it at lease. Well, they sold their aircrafts for $75 million and they got on hand 5 million of the profit on each aircraft. Now, according to their total order, they had approx 100 aircrafts, and if they have sold 100 aircrafts at a rate of $75 million, that means they have a net profit of $500 million, which is sufficient to run the operations for the next 1 or 2 years. Now, what Indigo did is that they again took the aircraft from that XYZ company in lease so that they have to pay a very minimal amount and they have a good amount of money kept in their bank to run their operations. Now, this brings upon a very win-win situation for both the companies, even Indigo and even the XYZ company, which took the aircraft and then again leased it back to Indigo, because Indigo already got $500 million on hand profit, and that company even got $100 million worth of aircraft at 75 million, with Indigo having $500 million. $500 में तो कुछ होगा ही नहीं. Let's go to 2010. Well, in 2010, Indigo became the third largest Indian airline operator, just behind Kingfisher.
Vijay Mama, hi, it's Rishi. How are you?
Now, in 2011, they again purchased over 180 A320 aircrafts because of their rapidly increasing customers. Then, in March 2012, Indigo became the second largest operator. And finally, and very surprisingly, Indigo became the largest aircraft operator in the same year, August 2012, in India. Now, again in 2015, Indigo purchased over 270 aircrafts, which were A320neo, again from Airbus. And A320neo is a kind of a little better and little efficient than their previous versions of planes. Now, even after 10 years, in 2022, they have maintained their position at the top, having over 57.7% of the total market share right now.